Hello everyone and welcome back to the Big Bros podcast. My name is Jeremy and welcome if it's your first time joining us on the show. I'm joined by my lovely friend and co-host Ilan. How are we, mate?
I am pretty good, my friend. I am pretty good. How about yourself?
That's great to hear. I'm well and I'm keen to dive into this one. We're talking about sacrificing your old life for your new one. What the costs are from your old life that will make you the person that you want to become. What do you reckon that is all about? How would you sum that up to a 20-year-old listening that is thinking, far out, I just want to be a better version of myself and I'm stuck in my ways and I don't know how to get out of it?
Imagine the life that you want. Think about the outcomes that you want in that life. If it means I want to have a lot of money, I want to be ripped, I want to have this, I want to have that, and these are like outcome goal specific, ask yourself what systems you have in place. What processes do you have in place? Do you want me to simplify that even more? What are you doing on a day-to-day basis to A, either achieve that or B, not achieve that? Then you look at whether your current goals process, if your current processes, your current steps that you're doing from a day-to-day is working towards those goals and objectives. If they are not, that means you have to say goodbye to them so that you can train in some new steps that can achieve that. As a really good example, if you're someone, and I love using the gym example because it's so simple. If you're someone who wants chiseled abs and your current system is, I eat a lot of food in a calorie surplus, I don't exercise, I don't train my abs, I don't do anything conducive towards getting abs, well, that system isn't going to serve that goal. But if you decided, hey, I'm going to start eating in a calorie deficit, I'm going to start being way more consistent with my gym routine, I'm going to target my abdominals during my gym split, then you won't be surprised to learn that system is actually going to achieve that goal. That's a really, really simple example. But more specifically, if you decide to kind of visualize the life you want and you paint yourself a various number of goals, that will mean that you'll ultimately have to sacrifice a bunch of old systems. And when I say systems, that's behaviors, that's habits. All of these things will create an identity. So unfortunately, there's going to be elements that you're going to have to part with and grieve and say goodbye, and it's going to be uncomfortable, but that is the price if you want to achieve what that is in a new life. And there's no solutions, only trade-offs.
And I think as a 20-year-old in particular, or anyone within the 20 to 30 demographic, this is a forever thing. This is something that you should always continuing to be trying to evolve with, trying to adapt in terms of your behaviors and who you want to be the next day. And it is scary and overwhelming to think about. And I think an easier way to dumb it down with goal setting, because when it comes to goals, it can be difficult. You think, okay, I want to achieve X, Y, and Z, but how plausible is it? This is where I think employing the SMART goals mentality is really important. And we could make a whole episode about goal setting and what that looks like. But simply put, a SMART goal, meaning S, is it specific? Is your goal specific? Is it working towards something that is very detailed? So, if you want to lose 5 kilograms, is it, I want to just lose weight, or is it, I want to lose 5 kilograms in X amount of time? That's a specific goal. Is it measurable? Is there a tool in which you can measure your goal? Is there objective measures for it? Are you tracking something? Is there a way you can keep track of it? Whether it's through numbers, whether it's through photos, whether it's through any form of metrics. Is it attainable? Is the goal plausible? Is it something that you feel like you can achieve in your particular environment, with the resources you have, with the things that are at your disposal to be able to reach that specific goal? Is it realistic?
I think it's realistic.
Yeah, I think realistic as well. So crosses over to the attainability aspect of it as well. But is it a realistic goal, or is it just kind of blasphemous? Is it a goal that you're kind of just ripping out on a drunk night out and you haven't thought it through? And T, is it timely? Do you have a specific time frame to it? And I think that is the nitty gritty. That is the crux of what like a SMART goal is. And I just know with myself and with the podcast, it's something that we think about in terms of making things attainable, making them measurable, and trying to work to achieve them. I think a brief example is I remember last year, mate, when we were trying to get some good initial growth on TikTok with our numbers. We were pretty stagnant for a while and we weren't really moving much. And we set ourselves a challenge in April to post 3 times a day, every single day. And we did not miss it. And that was for the purpose of growing. Were we as smart with the goal as what we could have been? Maybe not, because maybe we didn't have like specific metrics. Maybe we didn't try to utilize specific tools in which it might have bolstered us even further. But at least we were somewhat timely with the goal and actionable towards it. And that is I guess a nice example from our podcast perspective of something we tried to do. And with any SMART goal, you look at the things that work and you look at the things that didn't work, because plenty of things that didn't work and plenty of things that we would have liked and had hoped to go other ways as well. But that's the beauty of goals. Some things you win and the other things you take little bits of and you learn from.
The biggest mistake people make with goal setting is that they don't make it specific. That's why the SMART goal metric is actually quite useful, because by making it specific, by making it tangible, you actually allow yourself something to work towards. You actually set up these 2 goalposts where you can aim. Otherwise, you keep a goal that is insanely vague and completely ambiguous, and then you don't know if you've achieved it or not. I think if anyone sets out a goal, the first thing they absolutely have to look at is whether it's tangible, because that's going to actually guide the systems that you put in place. It's going to guide your processes and the habits that you actually implement. That's why I hate this whole idea of, I don't hate it, but it's more so if, like, as you said, like if you say, I want to just lose weight, what the hell does that mean? What does it mean to lose weight?
Got to strip it back.
Do you want to lose fat? Do you want to lose muscle? Do you want to lose bone density? I don't understand what you want to lose. Do you want to lose 5 kilograms? Now we're talking, because that's something that we can work towards. It's measurable. You can understand that, right? If you put this, and for all my mid-20-year-olds still in the academic setting, if you're currently getting credits, and that's what I think like a 60 to a 70, then, and you want to get a distinction, and you tell yourself, I want to get better grades at uni. What the hell does that look like for you? Does that look like you're getting an improvement in your WAM? Does that mean an improvement in your GPA? Does that mean you want to score better on exams and assignments? Give yourself a number, so this way you can actually work towards something. I think that is the biggest mistake that people don't do, is make their goals tangible and specific. And if you think it's specific enough, try make it even more specific.
With numbers, I think people just don't set goals in general because they're scared to put numbers to the goal sometimes as well, because I think, what if I don't achieve the number? And that's what deters them from setting the goal in the first place. I know I've been a victim of that and have done that and continue to do that. And it's something that is hard to work against. But I think if you employ a mentality of you only learn regardless of what your results are, you only learn whether they go your way or not. It doesn't really matter what that number is and whether you hit it at the end of the day, because you're learning things along the way, you're picking up new skills, and at least you've set yourself a challenge. If you reach it, unreal. If you fall a little bit short, well, it's a nice humbling experience and you take things into the next one.
True, it's true. And I think obviously goal setting is going to be integral in any part of your life where you're trying to almost mold yourself into a new identity. So this whole idea that when you trade out your old life for the new one, you also have to understand that it's going to be difficult to actually part ways with those comfortable habits and those comfortable processes, because that's all you've known. And you're going to have moments where it's like, do I really want to say goodbye to this? Because this is what I've been comfortable with. This is what has kept me safe in a lot of ways. And it's almost that familiar hell rather than, the incentive of going after an uncomfortable heaven, as you'd like to kind of phrase it. But I think what's quite important to also remember is you have to understand your why. It's like, why do you want a new life? Because some people just say, I want to trade out my old life for a new one. What the hell does that mean again? And I'm being quite aggressive there, because I think, again, it's going back to the specificity point. To say that you want to change your identity, to upgrade your behaviors, what does that mean? Like, seriously, what does that actually mean? Does it mean from a personal life? Does that mean you want to invest in your friendships and maybe your intimate partner and increase the quality of those relationships? Does that mean, if you're working occupationally, does that mean enjoying your job more? Even then, you can make that more specific. Does it mean increasing the amount of money you make in a given year? And even in other domains, like creatively, like are you picking up a sport or a hobby or a creative pursuit that you want to get better at? The point I'm trying to make here is we have to get really certain as to our reasoning why we want to improve in certain things, because when we are in that process of developing a new identity, cultivating new habits and doing things that is going to lead to a better life, it's very easy to, especially when results aren't going our way, to be tempted to revert back to what we know, back to the familiar hell, right? And I think this is important, just like as you would if you break up with someone, and we spoke about post-breakup doubt, write down all the reasons why you decided to leave that person. Just like in your case, you're writing down all the reasons why you wanted to leave your former life. Because it's going to be hard. When you don't see the fruits of your labor, you will be tempted to go back. And guess what? You might, and that's okay. And you might have a day where you do, it's like, again, if you want to lose a bunch of weight and then you have one day where you just binge eat, and that's okay. You have to be kind. You're not seeking perfection, but what you are doing is trying to at least build up more kind of good days in your personal record bank, such that it gives you a bit of confidence.
Exactly. And that example with your past partner is such a good example for this scenario as well, because too often we see couples that end relationships and then a few days go by, a few weeks go by, and one reaches out to the other and might ask to catch up, and then that might lead to sexual activity when they know that maybe they shouldn't be doing that. And why have they done that? Because they've just reverted back to their old habits. They're missing the feeling of comfort, love, affection, attention, validation that was all too familiar to them at this time. And this is why the whole concept of trading out your old life to achieve your new life, a better version of yourself, is so fucking hard, because you need to get comfortable with removing the short-term gratifications, removing the things that once felt habitual for you, but now serve you in a undesirable way. They don't make you a better person. And that is where I think support systems are really important around you. Hopefully you've got some friends, even just one friend or a family member around you that you can rely on, that can just bring you up, can hold you into line. And this is where it's really important for you as this person going through something like this, where you really want to change your ways. You want to change your habits. You want to get rid of the things that were once familiar for you and forge your pathway into something better. You need to be really honest and open to receiving advice from that one person around you who can hold you into line in a way. You need to invite that honesty from them, and you might not like to hear it. You might absolutely hate what they say. You know, if it came to relationships, let's use that as an example, as we've been talking about this. And you know, you've previously been someone that has been very casual with people, sleeping around a lot, not really being direct and intentional with what you want to achieve when it comes to relationships. And now you actually want to forge something familiar. You best believe that you would hope to have a friend close to you that can tell you that honest feedback and say, hey mate, look, I know you want this, but your habits aren't changing. You're still going out casually with people. You're still, sleeping with this person when you know you shouldn't be. And here you are telling yourself that you actually want something serious. Well, something's got to give. You need a change. And look, if you get butthurt by that and you know that like that's essentially the honest truth, but you don't like hearing it, well, that's where you need to just take a deeper look into yourself and start to reflect on those harsh realities, because only when you acknowledge those harsh realities about yourself, and they're not all doom and gloom, there can be some good ones too, but generally to forge a new pathway and to remove some old habits, you might need to recognize some harsh realities about yourself. And that is the first step, and not getting butthurt by those people around you who do want the best for you and who will hold you into line.
You've got to get really clear and comfortable with what aspects of your personality, and more specifically, which habits you're comfortable in sacrificing. Because in any attainment of anything, there is some sort of sacrifice, whether it's sacrifice of time, sacrifice of energy, sacrifice of sleep, whatever the case may be. in order to achieve anything, that something has to give, right? It doesn't, you can't just add without trade. Like that's how trading works in general. It's like you give something to get something. And using a sports analogy is really, really helpful in this case as well. Any sports team, sometimes they will need to give up a really prized recruit in their team because they might be worth maybe 2 or 3 players in order to get 2 or 3 players that can fill a specific hole in their team. Do you think that was easy? No, but they had to sacrifice something in order to become the team they want. I think of Hawthorn in 2018 and 2019 when they got rid of Tom Mitchell.
Jago O'Meara.
Liam Shields, exactly.
Even Jordan Lewis in the early days. It was all out with the old, in with the new.
That's it. And the thing is, it's funny to use that example because a lot of those players would have been comfortable with. They would have been premiership heroes, three-peaters for some of them.
And people around, like supporters, would have hated hearing that. They think, well, what about loyalty? And, sometimes if you want the best for your situation here, things might go out the window at times.
You'll see it in your friends as well. If you have friends who, let's say you're trying to change your entire life, you're trying to clean stuff up about your personality, and suppose you have friends and the only reason you're friends with them is because you go down to the pub with them 2-3 times a week for a drink. And
you've been doing that consistently
and you've been doing that consistently. Imagine then you tell them, hey, like, this is not what I'm about anymore. I'm going to try and do 90 days sober, or you just try to cut down drinking in general. That ultimately might mean that those activities go down. And then they might tell you you've changed. And you know what? They're right. You have changed, but probably for the better. And in your world, for the better as well, because your values, or at least your behaviors, are now in line with the values you want to embody. So I think that's also a really important point. You might get a lot of criticism, and that's okay. And that's what might lead you to want to revert back to what was comfortable before. But, you also have to understand you don't have to sacrifice everything about your identity and personality. For example, people might be listening to this and think, okay, great. If I want to become a better person, a more accomplished person, a more fulfilled person, does that mean I have to sacrifice every aspect about what makes me me? Definitely not. If you're someone who's disciplined, why would you want to trade that out? In fact, you'll probably need discipline. It's a key asset to your personality. It's a key asset to what fuels your habits and behaviors. So maybe just channel that discipline in more effective ways that are able to actually help you in the long run. But if you're someone who maybe procrastinates like me and you do, we were looking at MCG Siren Evolution, which was actually an excellent way of procrastinating. If I want to be more productive, you have to trade out procrastination ultimately. You have to be really specific with which systems serve the end goal. And if the system isn't serving it, just like the 2018 Hawks isn't going to be serving a fast ball movement, well, you got to trade them out.
Yeah, and I think the example there with friendships is a really good one to take note of as well, because if you use the pub analogy here, you've got those mates that you would regularly go to the pub with, and they're like your drinking friends, and you kind of associate friends with drinking friends, and you think, okay, well, if I don't go to the pub with them anymore, then they're not going to be my friend. Well, there's a situation where it's using one example and thinking of that holistically as the whole picture. If they're your true friend, you will continue to be friends with them in other settings. If they don't invite that and they don't want that with you, then they're not your friend in the first place, right? So it can be really scary, but it can also serve as a litmus test in a way to see, okay, what is true about me? What is true about my relationships? And who really wants the best for me? And it starts with yourself. Do you want the best for you in this situation? Because if you want the best for yourself, you will be the one to recognize what you want and then make that move. And the people around you, whether they support you with it or whether they try to give you some shit for it, then that is the most eye-opening and kind of rewarding part of the experience, because you kind of just get a good sense of who wants the best for you and who doesn't. And this is where I also tend to think about the lonely chapter, something Chris Williamson talks about all the time and we've reflected on before, but be prepared for it. In our 20s, this happens all too often. We will be changing habits, changing friendships, relationships change, careers change. There's a lot of change in these years. Things fluctuate regularly, more often and more regularly than we might want them to as well. And you're going to have to be prepared to go through a lonely chapter in this time period. And what that means is essentially is just being prepared to maybe go through moments where you might lack a little bit of support that you normally maybe once did have, or maybe you don't have those cheerleaders by your side that maybe you once don't have. Because you want to forge a new path for yourself, you need to trade out. You've recognized you need to trade out those old elements of yourself because you want something better for yourself. And you might bring up people along the way with you, which is fucking great. That means they want the best for you. And therefore on the flip side, you might leave some other people hanging beneath you. And that's not to say that you're a better person than them and they're a worse person than you. This just means that things aren't aligning anymore. And yeah, you might have been really close originally, but things change and that's okay.
I'm a massive believer that if you start embodying the values that you promote, you'll ultimately generate friends who are largely aligned with the same beliefs as you. As an example, if you start embodying and valuing physical health and fitness and you start attending group fitness classes, chances are you might actually make some friends, and that friendship might last beyond just the gym setting. It might be the fact that you both embody the fact of personal improvement and personal development outside the fitness domain. And perhaps that's a friendship that might develop and be maintained in the gym setting, but it'll grow even more outside of it because you two are aligned in the values that you embody. And I think that's a really, really important point, because as you are navigating that lonely chapter, you kind of want to go back to the familiar supports that you have, despite them not necessarily being conducive towards your growth. But at the same time, you haven't made the social contacts yet required at the point of where you're trying to achieve, right?
Think about what great opportunities and people can come your way, what you will experience. You might not be experiencing it yet, but you know if you put yourself in those circumstances, there are so many good things that might very well and probably will come your way.
That's why I'm a huge believer that if you are promoting a specific behavior that requires you, for example, if I'm again, the fitness one's really, really easy, but I think doing things where you can involve yourself in group context is really important. Like involving yourself in groups where the focal point of the group is around a topic or an area of interest of yours that reflects a deeper value of yours. So with gym, it's physical fitness.
Run clubs,
if
look
it's
at
run
why
clubs,
they're so massive
Run
now.
clubs, especially in the morning, that vitality, that fun, that vigor for life, just enjoying yourself. Like that doesn't have to be exclusive towards just going out at night and, getting drunk or whatever. It can be generally extended towards other mediums and other settings. And in this case, it is things like run clubs. But, even in like business contexts, there's always mentoring programs or networking events and so forth. So I'm a huge believer that if you are navigating that period of your life, it's actually a great opportunity to continue putting yourself in this uncomfortable position, but going through with things where you're going to end up in group situations, because chances are the people you meet there will already be aligned with the same things as you.
What do you think about mourning your old life or mourning old aspects of your old life? Do you think it's a practice that is advantageous if you do want to level up, if you do want to trade out old elements for yourself for new elements of yourself? Do you think actually mourning old parts of yourself can kind of give you that solace to move on and to experience new parts of yourself?
Yeah, I think mourning your old habits is crucial. And I say that because it gives you a sense of closure. It closes that chapter so that you can effectively move on and not think twice. Because if you don't mourn it, it's going to continue to linger in the back of your mind. And I also think it does it justice because, listen, if you're trying to say goodbye to old behaviors and habits, and that's all you've known for best part of a decade, 2 decades, 3 decades, however long, that is a scary change to make. For someone on the outside, if you're someone who has been living with, if you've always had a problem when it comes to obesity or your weight, and that's a personal thing for you, to someone else hearing, I want to lose 5 kilograms, someone else might say that's easy. But that person, that might be a massive change they have to make. Of course, they should do themselves some justice and mourn that side of them. If that's what they knew. I think it'd be cruel not to. I think you have to be so gentle. And part of being gentle with yourself is saying, I'm going to miss the old parts of me that may have not been serving me, but it's what I knew. It's what I grew up with. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that because you're still acknowledging that its utility is now done. But you're still respecting yourself enough to know that, hey, it's going to be hard to move into this new chapter of life. and saying goodbye to what I knew. Like it's what I knew. It was a part of me. And I think you can't just simply say, yeah, I'm just going to get rid of that. There has to be some sort of symbolic transcendence.
It's kind of like, I think this is a big reason why we fall in love with like transformation videos, transformation stories, transformation photos, glow up videos on TikTok and Instagram. All of these videos that denote some form of transition, some form of trade-off. If we think about it, we're flicking through this so constantly on our phone. We are constantly exposed to this topic about trading out the new, trading out the old rather for the new. And we fall in love with this story, and we get addicted to actually seeing it. I feel like there's something innate in us that actually looks for that change and gets a buzz from that change and chasing that change, not only in ourselves, but seeing it in other people. And I think the body transformation videos and analogy is great, but also with like alcoholism and like even like cigarettes, like and vaping and things like that. I mean, I've seen so many videos online of people, you know, posting what they like used to look like and how they used to act when they were, you know, maybe alcohol addicted or vape addicted, and then they post the videos of themselves now, and you think, well, why do they still keep those videos of what they used to look like? Why do they still post them? Why do they still watch them? Why do they use them as such like a branding for what they are like now in terms of how healthy they are now? And I think they do that, one, because it's that element of mourning your old life, but also feeling so proud of the person that you have become. And I think that is just another way where you can like practice gratitude. You know, take photos of yourself in your darkest times. Take some, you know, pictures of when you felt your lowest. Document when you felt your lowest, and that can often serve as a mechanism, as a catalyst for you to then go out there and change your habits and change your ways, so that when you then do look back at these videos and the footage of yourself when you're at your lowest, you will have this moment of such pride and gratitude for how far you've come. And I think that's one of the most purest forms of just self-pride that we can experience as a human, seeing how far we have transitioned, how much we have grown. And I think that's why like I will always like encourage people to like take photos of themselves, whether they look good or they don't look good, because you will only ever see it as a stepping stone to hopefully achieving something better down the line.
I love that. On that note, guys, we hope you all have enjoyed this episode. If there's anyone in your friendship circle that may benefit from hearing this, please do send it to them. We hope you guys have an amazing Tuesday. If you're enjoying our potty, please do rate us 5 stars. And on that note, Jeremy, let's say goodbye and sayonara for another week. Until next week.
Goodbye.
To our lovely listeners. Goodbye.